Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast with Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. Thanks to our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction for sponsoring this podcast as usual.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
As usual. Level, you are back from the Sooner State with a smile, so it appears. And how we doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Norman. It was a pleasure. I'll never see you again. And I took what I wanted while I was there, and not going back. So
Isn't that the definition of a Sooner? Someone just goes in there, takes what they're not supposed to.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's hard to win in this league. It is hard to win in this league on the road. Mm-hmm. It's especially hard to win on this league or in this league on the road when you are down 9 with, I think, 5 to 6 minutes left. I mean, you were fortunate enough to win at home down 8 with 3 minutes to go against Kansas State. Pulled that one off, to which I kind of left that game going, not real sure how you won this game, but doesn't really matter.
Man.
And so I walk into where I was going to talk to Coach McCaslin yesterday, right outside the visitors' locker room at the Lloyd Noble Center. And, he just said, man, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how. And that really sums it up with this group, man, because yesterday it was Chance McMillan. Yeah, last Saturday it was Pop, but it's not just those guys. I mean, there's so many things that have to go into for those guys' performances to even matter. Otherwise, it's one of these NBA dudes that is dropping 55 in a losing effort, and it's like, yay, but it doesn't. It's like you're not getting the result, and so I don't know, man. I really thought this would be a tough one. I think you got Oklahoma's. You talk about ways to win the conference. Well, let me tell you ways to lose it or not be a contender for it. Lose back-to-back home games like Oklahoma just did this past week. So that's and they had the best crowd I've ever seen at Lloyd Noble Center. Best crowd by far. Yep. A lot of that had to do with Tech fans, but there was a lot of Sooner fans that were there, and it was full. I have not seen that really ever. Basketball is an afterthought there, and I thought they played hard. They being Oklahoma, you kind of were getting them off of a loss, and they got their all the stuff, and they pressured you, and they fouled you a lot when it wasn't called, but they were kind of allowing a lot of the contact, and it was very physical, and yet you survived it, and it wasn't easy by any means, but I mean, unbelievable, man. I mean, it's just yes, winning is better than losing, but what a gift Grant McCaslin has given this fan base to go to Austin and Norman and your last trips there from a basketball standpoint and say, like the Lion King, like, WW in Austin and, in Norman, and say, here, everybody, take a look, I mean, like the Simba moment, but it's like 2 W's in his hand, road wins in those 2 places, and you'll never go back. I mean, I say never, but maybe be a long, long time. But So sorry, I've rattled on, but great day, man.
How much has it turned though with McCaslin? You're talking about those 2 things are phenomenal, but I think the vast majority of Tech fans had cautious optimism going into this season. the thought that you could be. I think most projections had you somewhere around a bubble team. Some had you in, some had you out. That was the thought coming into the season, and really coming into Big 12 play as well, that you'd be a bubble team, one that might make the tournament. You still got 2/3 of Big 12 play to go, so nothing is set. But I don't think anybody anticipated what you've done through 6 games in Big 12 play. A 5-1 start, have held sole possession of first place for a pretty good chunk of Big 12 play. And I'm still just kind of in awe of what's gone on, because winning on the road in Big 12 play, just only title contenders do that. Really. I mean, only teams that are in contention to win the Big 12 are able to win on the road in tough atmospheres the way Tech has done. And again, a lot of basketball left, but they've played like a title contender up to this point.
Yeah, I was asked this question personally, and this is, I guess I can just toss it out here since we're talking about questions that would be asked and answered and all these things, and
Yeah.
it's a legitimate question. And it was somebody that I really, really trust, and somebody heavily involved in college basketball. It was kind of like tongue in cheek, but I knew what they meant, and
Yeah.
they were like kind of joking but serious. Like, are they peaking too early? And I kind of laughed. I was like, yeah, hey man, some teams never peak, right? And so
Yeah.
I'll take a peak too early versus a no peak,
Sure.
I guess. But I think Grant and his staff and these kids deserve a tremendous amount of credit because they're, now that you've had the season-ending injury to Devin Cambridge, you're one injury away from this thing really being very different than what
True.
it can be right now. Just simple math and the pieces that you have that you trust and are ready to play at this level and that is needed at this level to try to play championship basketball. I think when you go get road wins, plural, I think it does change the expectation a bit for outsiders and folks within,
Yeah.
because this shouldn't be a surprise to folks that have followed Coach McCaslin's career. He tried to tell everybody that would listen, hey, folks, we have the best road record at UNT the last, whatever, 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. They talked about defense. They talked about winning on the road. I mean, Joey McGuire's calling Grant McCaslin, is like, hey, you got any tips for winning on the road?
Yeah.
All those things. And in true road games this year, they're 2-2. I mean, they lost in Houston and to Villanova. Excuse me, Butler and Houston.
Right.
The Villanova game was at the Bahamas. Sorry.
Right.
And so, but I just think that, yeah, there's a way that because he's pretty even keel, but they just are so detailed, and he just doesn't sweat the small stuff. And I think that there's a maturity level with his kids, because I mean, you went out and you recruited some pieces that would have multiple years here, but where would you be without Joe and Warren, like the 5th-year COVID senior type guy?
Yeah.
And those guys have been through this, been on the road, been in hostile environments, all those things. So it's kind of a beautiful thing to watch. And the fun thing for the fans is that everything that you just said is what makes this fun, because it was somewhat unexpected. You haven't accomplished anything yet. There is, 12 more rounds in this fight, I guess, if we
Yeah.
want to, term it that, which is what kind of Tech does on social media. But these are the kind of runs that kind of make it fun. And if you look at this little 2-game road trip that you were about to take, I mean, I would have said, man, if you can get one of these,
Yeah.
and then come home and play Cincinnati and continue to win at home, if you could just sneak one on the road and keep winning at home, that's the recipe for winning the thing.
Sure.
And now that you've won one, what if you can get another?
What if? Yeah. You start to ask those questions. And I, here's another question from the audience. The first one from email. It says, when should we start taking Texas Tech seriously as a Big 12 title contender?
Well, I think some are still very much on the fence, and I understand it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. When you look at their team, you're like, this isn't supposed to be what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
The pieces don't necessarily, because I mean, let's be honest. There was a study. I had a coach that I knew 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it's somewhat changed now because of the portal and some of the dynamics. But there was a stretch there where there was like the 12 to 14 year span where if you won the regular season Big 12 title, that you had like one ish, like one plus
Yeah.
NBA types on your team, and certainly one ish, and sometimes like two, and we're talking like first and second team, like all Big 12 type players.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Pop would be the closest thing to that. I don't know if he's a unanimous all Big 12 performer.
He's played
I
into contention for it, at least right now.
if you win enough games,
Yeah.
he would. But like, is he a bona fide like no NBA no doubter? I wouldn't
No.
say that. I think
No.
is he going to play professionally? Absolutely. But and so I think to those that have followed it and write about it and covered the league, they look at it and go, I don't. There's not an all conference like no brainer. There's not a a this and a that, and you look for all the things that you're supposed to see, and yet they just keep getting results.
Yeah.
So that's a credit to the because there's no ego on this team. That needs to be stated. All these guys, they don't care. They don't give a bleep about who gets the credit. And Grant doesn't either. Grant deflects and talks about his staff and all the individual pieces, even the trainer. Big Mike,
Yeah.
and Chris Nottingham, the video court. It's just kind of a beautiful kind of existence right now. And so, but I mean, you go win in TCU or in Fort Worth against TCU, and you sweep that 2-game road trip. Oh, I guarantee you won't find anybody that won't take you seriously at that point.
Yeah, I feel like personally I've been kind of okay, I need to see this or I need to see that to really let myself buy in that you're in that Big 12 title hunt. I mean, you've been in first place for a while. I get that it's 6 games in, not 12 games in. So I guess at a personal level, I'm still maybe holding out for like the TCU win or whatever you need to see, but I don't know what else they need to prove up to this point. 2 Big 12 road wins against teams that are looked at as tournament teams right now. I think Lenardi has both teams in the conversation. Yeah, I don't know what else you need to see to say at
Well,
least a contender. We're not saying they're gonna go win it outright, but to contend for a title, I don't know why not.
and I think we need to remember. We need to really remember, especially when you get to this point, and I think you will. I don't know what it looks like and how long it will last.
Yeah,
But adversity is around the corner,
absolutely.
and I say that because the league is we can't sit here and say the league is the best league in the country and then not understand that I don't care who you are, you're not rolling
Sure,
through this thing. The
sure.
league is too good. Sorry, I mean that's the reality of it. And then how do you handle that when it gets there? And is it because like what's I don't know, and Choice, you can correct me on this, but I want to say that like UConn won the national championship last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say there was either the numbers 6 and 8 rolling around in my head, but they either lost 6 in a row or maybe they lost 6 of 8 games in a span of their conference season, and still won the national championship.
Yeah,
And so because I mean that you're talking in a college basketball season. You lose 6 of 8 or 6 in a row, whichever it was. That's either 3 weeks or that's a month. Okay, you're playing 2 games a week. You're telling me you lose 6 in a row. That's a 3-week span. If you lose 6 of 8, that's a month's worth of games. So either way, that's a month's worth of like a tough patch. And I'm sure that there's probably many and most folks that just buried them, and yet they won the whole dadgum thing.
Yeah, it was 6 of 8 from December 31st to January 25th. So from January
So
so
January.
so from December 31st to January 31st, they won 2 games
Yeah. I mean, so
out of 8.
just process that.
Yeah.
Now they got it figured out, and then went on this run.
Sure.
And so, but you can't, you can't just dismiss a team like Baylor, for example. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Yeah, is it turned heads? Is it like, whoa? Yeah, but I mean, there's still plenty of time left. And so, I guess my
Yeah.
point is, you're going to hit a rough patch at
Sure.
some point. You just hope that it's not. Uh, um, you're going. We can't sit here and have it both ways and say the league is, if we're going to say it's the best in the country, then you have to expect some rough patches. That's the beauty of playing in the toughest league in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, Kansas off to their worst start in Big 12 history at 4-3. I mean, think
Yeah.
about that.
I was
They
asking
can't
someone
win a road
yesterday.
game.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
asking. I'm like, when's the last time Kansas has been 4-3 in to open in 7 games? And
And
there's
there
your
are plenty
answer.
of people that have watched them that will tell you this is not a typical Kansas team. They're not very deep. They don't shoot it well.
Yeah.
There's 4 to 5 pieces on their team that Bill Self trusts.
Yeah.
They don't play, but about 6 or 7. So for all you're kind of looking at, you're like, oh boy, not very deep and all that. I mean, there's
Right.
plenty of teams in the same boat. They don't particularly shoot it well from deep. They turn it over to. There's a long list of things,
Yeah.
and they're still good and demand a level of respect. But because I thought that typically when Kansas wins this league, they're going to drop a few games here and there. Again, league's too tough, but they go
Mhm.
beat like an Iowa State. You count them out. They go into Ames and like, yeah, we're going to remind everybody. Well, they didn't. And so, everybody's got their own issues and all those things, but the league's just a monster.
Yeah.
It's a meat grinder. I mean, look at what went on in Waco
Yeah.
on a Saturday evening or into the night, I guess it would be, or afternoon or whatever. I mean, that was and I'm just sitting there paying attention to that one, hoping that TCU is like expending every.
That's exactly my approach when I was actually driving back
Keep
into
going.
town. I'm
Let's
listening to
get
that
to
game.
5 overtimes.
Emmanuel Miller played over 50 minutes in that game. So I'm like, all right. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's a good thing for Tuesday night for
Yeah.
Texas Tech. So I mean, you talk about the adversity and it's the win, not if type of thing for
Oh,
Tech.
yeah.
You've been playing with some fire. It's well documented and pretty amazing, mind you. The whole basketball power index thing on ESPN's website. They have a running tracker on the website during the game of percentage chance to win, and a good basis off of the pregame odds for the power index, and then goes from there by the score for the most part of this is their chance to win this game. So Tech in 4 games, 4 wins so far. The Texas game, you reached 82.8% chance of losing that game, essentially. The Kansas State game, 90.8%. The BYU game, 95% chance you're going to lose that game. And then 93.9 is what you hit against Oklahoma on Saturday. So there is a playing with fire element of you want to quit being in these holes, quit digging so deep. But there's also, I mean, it depends if you're a glass half empty or half full person, I'm sure, because there's also just an amazement factor of how have you continued to be able to come back from these deficits.
It's not about if the glass is half full or it's half empty. It's about who's pouring the water.
That's a good. Where'd you get that one from? I like that.
I had a coach tell me that a long time ago,
That's
and
a
I've
good
never
one.
forgotten it. And
Yeah.
because like Kellen Buffington, and I would tell. It's funny because Choice, you see me right after some of these like football things. I would tell Debbie McGuire this quote all the time this
Yeah.
past fall. when you'd win one of these close ones. I think I said it last
Sure.
year. I'd see Coach's wife, after one of these games, or I'd see her up, or she'd say, "I'm nervous before the game," and I'd say, "It's not about half full or half empty. It's about who's pouring the water." I trust your husband immensely
Yeah.
with the decision making and all the things. Like, don't stress. Easy for me to say, but I just think you've got some folks right now that are kind of in charge of this, whether it's your two guards, your head coach, or whatever. And like I think about it, like Kellen Buffington, the 806 GM, as he is known by on Twitter, who's part of this basketball staff.
Yeah.
He said something along the lines of it yesterday. We were on the plane, and I think right when we landed, he kind of tweeted this out back in Lubbock. But it's like, I love analytics as much as anybody. He's like, we use it, and all that. But the one thing that analytics, it's a data driven, table, and it shows you this and that. But the one thing analytics does not, count for. And I think what you're seeing here is like the grit component, the heart component, the no quit component. And then one thing that, because this team, like in back-to-back Saturdays, you essentially played the same game. And what I mean by that is you scored, I think, 32 points last week versus BYU in the first half, and you came back and you scored 53 in the second.
Yeah, outscored them 53 to 30, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then I think against Oklahoma, it's essentially almost dead on. It's the same plus 20 type of half. Like you get into the 33 and then you score 52 or whatever against Oklahoma. Well, the one thing that I think people are going to start talking about too, though, is there's a direct correlation into why that it was in the second half. You're an elite level free throw shooting team.
Yeah.
You were 7 of 8 at the stripe. You were 7 of 8 at the stripe in the last like 2 minutes yesterday against Oklahoma. I think Joe Toussaint missed one of his free throws at the tail end. But other than that, it was like that was the only free throw that you missed last week versus BYU. And look at what Oklahoma's free throw numbers were yesterday. I hate to dumb this down, and there's so many reasons why you won this game. Oklahoma missed 9 free throws.
And they're a good shooting team coming in too.
They were one of the better free throw shooting teams in the conference, certainly. But I just think, and you weren't perfect. You were 60-19, but so many of those when you're trying to ice a game,
absolutely,
or in a position where they got to put you on the foul line, you're. So I just there's a lot of layers here, but it's a maturity, it's a clutch, it's Grant drawing up the right play to get the right guys the ball. So they're the ones that are fouled. Anyway, it's some fun stuff, man. I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and I hope everybody else is too.
Last basketball thought before we move on to a couple of questions, but I had a coach tell me not too long ago, good shooting can cover up a lot of ills. Good shooting for basketball. It's as simple as that. And you're not just a good free throw shooting team. You're so much better of a shooting team as a whole this year. And we see that some guys have on nights, some guys have off. You've had Herculean efforts out of 2 of your guys the last 2 games shooting the basketball. Pop Isaacs and Chance McMillan, obviously, against Oklahoma with 27 points.
Yeah, you have some guys that are highly flammable.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do. I think we were asking the question. I was. I mean, I'll admit to it. Like before the season started, like, do you have a dude that can bail you out, can make something of nothing? And it sounds like you got multiple. It just depends on what night it is. Because I mean, Joe's even played this role.
Sure.
And then you got guys like Darion and Kerwin or Warren that are just kind of. They do everybody just knows their role, man. But it's funny you said that about good shooting, because you're right. I mean, the game is so much easier when you hit shots. When you don't, it affects everything else. It shouldn't, but it does. It's like you don't play as good a defense.
Yeah.
You're not as into it. You get frustrated. I mean, but when that ball goes through the net, it's like, this is a great sport. I love this. I'm having so much fun. And it's just a matter of seeing the
Yeah,
ball go through the net. Like everything,
sure.
this is no matter the level,
Yep,
just the
you could
way.
dumb down basketball to its simplest form, and it's who can make more shots than the other
Yeah.
team. That's what
And,
it
and
is.
I would tell kids that I was coaching them. I'm like, when you're teaching them, basics and things like that, I'm like, fellas, the team that makes the most layups wins. The team
Yeah,
that misses the most will lose. And to a certain extent, that is still true. I mean,
sure.
obviously, the college level, it's a bit different. But anyway, I just
Yeah,
yeah, because Tim Tadlock would tell you, hey man, you find me 9 dudes that can hit, I'll
yeah.
find them somewhere to stand.
That's
Not to
exactly
knock
what it tells you.
anybody's, not to knock anybody's defense, or that the defense isn't important. But I'm just saying it's like, hey man, they can hit.
Yeah,
I'll find somewhere, put a glove on them, and figure out the rest. But
you're right.
yeah,
Speaking of
so
Tim Tadlock, they're what were we? A little less than 3 weeks away from getting that season underway. They should have a pretty good baseball team this year.
yeah, I think so.
Um, all right, a couple other questions outside of basketball. Actually, before we do that, I'll give you a chance real quick. Preview TCU and Cincy. Um, Cincy, you get that team at home, but they've been dangerous. They played Kansas to 5 points, I think, in Lawrence this past week, and then, of course, the TCU one's first. That team is as good as anybody in the conference right now.
Oh yeah, TCU's they're a matchup problem for a variety of reasons. That they are long and athletic. These are the teams that kind of make me nervous about Texas Tech. I think you just saw one in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily heavily rely on the three as much as some teams do. They want to get out and run and then kind of hammer you on the glass and things like that. They make it hard on you when the game slows down on offense to penetrate the lane and to do kind of your things, because it's kind of like Kansas State. It's just difficult, and you're going to have to be very mindful of their length and athleticism. And Emmanuel Miller is one of the top players in the conference. Everything is
Yeah,
running through him, which is not. It's somewhat rare for offense to run through a forward, but that's
sure.
kind of what's happening with TCU. But like you say that Jameer Nelson Jr. I mean, he went for 30.
Yeah,
He went for 30 in Waco. I think it was 30 or 31, but he only made 1 3, I think.
yeah,
So that tells you how they think. I mean, this is a points in the paint outfit. This is
yep.
a second chance points opportunity kind of outfit. And again, Oklahoma and TCU are very similar. I like TCU's individual pieces a bit better. But the depth and the length and the skill level is very similar to what you're dealing with here in back-to-back games. And so expect another, tough one in Fort Worth. And I hope to see many Tech fans there, as long as the TCU athletic department didn't ban you or whatever it is that they do.
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
their sneaky ways. All right. This one, a football question. After the Harbaugh news this week, do you anticipate any more coaching carousel news within the Big 12? And do you think there will be any trickle-down effect where any Tech coaches still could leave?
Well, I mean, again, you're in. This is a rarity to this point, but it doesn't appear that you've had really any movement with your actual assistants. There's been
Mm-hmm.
some graduate assistant, some analyst type folks that
Right.
have left and tried to get better at different jobs, and all those things. But as far as your actual coaching staff, it has remained untouched. And but I'm always going to say this: you just never know. There's even times when things happen and you get something after spring concludes. I mean, heck, you just never know.
Right.
Remember Jack Bignell Jr.? That was maybe before your time, Woodman, and he was your offensive line coach for the spring, and then he took a different job after spring was over, and you're just like, oh, I mean,
Pretty rough.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's a hard, yeah, you just invested 15 practices into a
Sure.
guy that coached a whole group as important as the O-line, and then you're like, okay, never mind. We got to go get somebody else in here and all that stuff. So that's a bit tricky. But yeah, right now, man, and I think for Michigan, Sharon Moore, probably the no-brainer choice, and it keeps most of that roster there. But boy, they lost a lot. I
Sure.
mean, that's a tough. It's gonna be a tough job for him, at least in year one, because they lost a lot. They're gonna lose a lot to the draft and the
Right.
graduation and all those things, and whatnot. And so, but hey, I don't feel sorry for them because they won a national championship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
you can trade some stuff away. How late was it that Emmett Jones left last
it
year?
was in mid-January
Okay.
ish. Yeah,
So you've
he
kind of
was.
crossed that point, but
I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
because you're getting into February here, and I think it was. I think it was that was all going on over like you know Christmas ish. Kind of
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, and yeah, I think that's the way that all went down.
One more question from the audience. This one is from Jose. Says, y'all talked about the schedule on the last episode. Could Tech end up playing a Thursday or Friday game when this schedule is released?
Oh, I think if I'm you, I would expect it.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't. There's no guarantee, but I think there's a lot of inventory on the Thursdays and Fridays with this new TV deal. And I think that everybody's gonna be affected one way or the other. And like I don't expect you to play the Friday after Thanksgiving, okay? Which because you
Sure.
technically had a Thursday and a Friday game this past year
That's
because
true.
you played Friday in Austin and you hosted TCU on Thursday night. But you specifically, I think, asked the league to play on the Saturday. I don't know how that works. I was just kind of
Yeah.
told that we've kind of indicated to the league as a
Yeah.
school we want to play on the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. We got a big basketball game on that Friday night, because I think some schools are like, please don't schedule us then. I
Right.
think you've actually said no, we'll do it. Yeah, trying to prepare those games up. But I would guess that one, and this is actually a good thing to me. But I think that one of your four conference road trips could be like a Thursday or a Friday game.
And you
And
think
I
that could
and
be a good thing?
oh yeah, I do because I
Okay.
think that the crowds aren't as juiced. I mean,
Sure.
would you rather go play Oklahoma State and or TCU on a Thursday night at 6
Sure.
or Saturday at 2:30?
Yeah. Yeah.
You tell me,
Definitely the Thursday.
yeah, and
And I
not,
think from what I understand on the Friday thing, I think Tech, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tech does not ever want these games on Friday nights at home if that is avoidable because of, Texas high school football and that sort of thing. But I don't know how much say you
yeah,
get
well,
in that.
and that's you don't want to offend anybody, I think, but I don't know if you can be guaranteed that or not.
Sure.
I
Right,
don't,
right.
it's just TV dollars, and those Thursday and Friday night games from the Power Five leagues, anyways, they do get some
Yeah,
ratings.
they do. They do.
Yeah. So anyway, so we'll see what we get, but next time we talk, we should have that schedule.
Yeah, I believe Tuesday is the anticipated
Just
date.
please give me some Ames, Iowa in September, October. That's all I'm asking for,
That's
man.
all you want. You
Right.
were you were freezing your baguettes
Yeah.
off last time
I have
we were up there.
PTSD from it, actually.
Hey, well, John likes to tell the story of you're down on the field, but his jacket froze to the window, so that was a little
Oh,
tricky.
indoors. Yeah, heaven forbid. Poor
John
guy.
Harris, yeah,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
it
Yeah.
was it was a
Not any
cold one
sympathy for
for
me.
sure.
I'm down there trying not to burn my lip on this chicken broth that I'm sucking down just to stay warm. And I can barely find my mouth through all the stuff that I've got on.
It was
I
a
mean,
li-
you knew it was cold when like not even Iowa State fans showed up. I mean, it was the smallest crowd that you'd
oh,
ever
that
seen
was
for a Iowa
tiny. I
State
was
game.
shocked at that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
what was the trick? The
right guard
right guard
and
Vaseline,
Vaseline. Yeah, you
and
spray
wasn't
right
there
guard.
cayenne pepper involved too to warm you
Yeah,
up?
like
You
there
mix
was
that up?
that was the rumor. I don't know if I saw anybody do the cayenne
Okay.
pepper, but definitely the Vaseline on your like are those patches or you
Yeah.
just put it on there and it would basically like it seal your skin kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Keep it warm. Yeah.
It'd kind of make it your everything a bit of a mess, and if
Yeah.
you bumped up anything, it would rub off. But
Yeah.
yeah, then you put right guard on your hands and feet and all that, and it would keep them from sweating because the sweat is what makes it makes everything so cold and all the moisture there. But yeah, anyways, yeah, we got way down a rabbit hole here talking about this year's schedule.
Well, so hopefully you don't have to deal with that. That's the idea.
Yes.
Next time around. But
Yes, that is the hope.
we
Choice.
will talk about it next time because we'll have a schedule. Level, appreciate the time as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Hope to see everybody at the arena this coming weekend against Cincinnati. It'd be a tough one. They are big and athletic. Some foreign kids on that team, coached by a young superstar in Wes, Coach. Wes Miller. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and anyway, they're sneaky good. So it's just like there's just no off nights. But yeah, hopefully maybe I'll see you in Fort Worth on Tuesday night, maybe in Lubbock next Saturday. But yeah, thank you to the folks at Cantex Roofing. I actually saw somebody in Norman at the game who listens and watches these.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and they wanted to know why my camera is better than yours. I was like, man, that's because I
Level's
guess
getting
you
those
look
high dollars. That's why. So
no. I think this thing's like $25. Anyways, but I was like, I don't. I look at the camera when I'm talking. I don't really look at Choice. But anyway, that was the comment that they made. I laughed.
That's it.
I was like, I can't wait to tell Choice that. Anyways, but appreciate everybody being part of this one. We'll talk to you next time. Keep hope alive, everybody.
Absolutely. That's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.